Good evening, folks. This is Deb Delapiana, and this is your short take. I'm making this video in response to several headlines I've seen today. It started first thing this morning, where I see an article in some mainstream media outlet about what are Joe Biden's best chances against Donald Trump. And then there's this, little subhead about it's these three blue states. Let me tell you something. Come November 5th, there is one thing on the ballot. It's either democracy or Donald Trump's America, which amounts to authoritarian rule. That should be the biggest advantage that Joe Biden has over Donald Trump in this election. It isn't the fucking economy. Nope. It isn't the immigration. It isn't the border problem. Nope. It is the fact that Donald Trump, if you have been paying attention to any of his little trips around the country, is talking about putting the hammer down here, authoritarian rule. All right, now they're talking about putting chaplains in schools. Are you fucking kidding me? They've already taken away a woman's right to choose. They're trying to, through legislation, legally outlaw transgender people who actually live here, work here, pay taxes, and should have the same rights as you and me. He has absolutely no respect for women whatsoever. I can give you a million reasons why the voters should resoundingly send Joe Biden back to the fucking White House. So that's the first headline. The second headline I see is, will the Hispanic vote push Donald Trump over the top? You got to be fucking kidding me. A man who spends his entire retribution tour vilifying migrants and immigrants. Where do you think they're coming from? Chelsea, Mass? I can't even imagine it. And all you Hispanic and Black voters out there, let me give you a date. April 7th, 2020. On that day, Donald Trump took control of the COVID pandemic. Because on that day, Jared Kushner informed him that COVID was killing a disproportionate amount of Black and Hispanic people. And Donald Trump's eyes lit up. That is the day he began to vilify Anthony Fauci and announced that he was taking COVID back from the medical people and would be running the show. That is the day he began the push to reopen the economy. As the pandemic was ramping up, as people were dying, not long after that, we were getting reports from hospitals where they were using refrigerator trucks to put the bodies in. Does anybody remember any of that? Does anybody remember any of that? And does anybody remember any of the studies that show that Blacks and Hispanics were dying in greater numbers than white people in America? And does anybody remember the studies that were done, not just here in the United States, but overseas, that verified the fact that Donald Trump's hideous handling of the COVID pandemic resulted in almost 500,000 more deaths than were necessary? Are you all asleep at the fucking switch? Americans have the attention span of gnats. That's about what we have here. We've all forgotten all of that. Remember that date, April 7th, 2020. That's when all of this went to hell. As he was telling everybody it was just going to disappear. And let me talk to you about the woman vote. In 2020, 55% of white women voted for Donald Trump, while 41% voted for Joe Biden. We already knew that Donald Trump had been bragging about stacking the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, even though that didn't happen until 2022. We already knew that Donald Trump had 26 credible cases of sexual assault or sexual harassment against him. We already knew all of that. We already knew that. So let me give you a warning, ladies. Voting this time for Donald Trump means more than what happened the first time. So this time, when you vote for Donald Trump, you are voting for a convicted rapist, unless you are going to the Nancy Mace School of Law, where apparently civil rape isn't real rape. It's only rape if it's, adjudicated in a criminal courtroom. So maybe that's where you go. You are talking about a man and you are supporting a man who is marauding his way around the nation, bragging about having been the man that overturned Roe v. Wade. You are talking about a man whose party is now going after contraception, IVF, fertility treatments. How much more do you want to give up? The candidate for governor of North Carolina says he wants to return to a time when women didn't have the vote. Well, what is it going to take unless 55% of white women are racists? Is that what's going on here? 55% of white women voted for Donald Trump. So let me give you a fucking hint. If it was because of your IRAs or the economy or the border, I don't know, whatever it was, but Donald Trump never did a goddamn thing for you for the economy. The only thing he did was give his rich, wealthy friends a massive tax break as he screwed the rest of us over and gave us $600 to deal with COVID. As far as the border is concerned, let me give you a hint. In 2018, 2019, 2020, they had enough of a majority to handle the border, to take care of it. They didn't do it. And let me give you another tip. They could have solved the border problem a week ago with a bill that was written in the Senate by the second most conservative GOP senator in office right now. And what happened? The orange scourge put the kibosh on it, told them not to pass it. Because why? Because he wants to solve the border problem. He doesn't want to help Joe Biden get elected, which really translates to, I don't give a shit about what's good for the American people. I only give a shit about what's good for me. So let me warn you all right now. There are no solutions to your problems in Donald Trump's America. There are only problems in Donald Trump's America, where, by the way, he's already riling up his banshees, promising that if he's not elected, there will be bloodshed. And no, he wasn't talking about the automobile industry either. No matter how the mainstream media tries to spin this bullshit, you know exactly what Donald Trump's talking about, because we saw it on January 21st, 2021. Didn't we? I'm sorry, January 6th, 2021. We saw what happened. They filmed themselves. They put it on the right-wing social media site called Parler. Those clips were not doctored. Those were clips that were videoed by the idiots themselves carrying out the crime. So in case you think that this is just another election, perhaps you need to educate yourselves just a bit more before you go into the voting booth. Because voting for Donald Trump is throwing this country out the window. It's throwing women's rights out the window. It's throwing the rights of people of color out the window. There is no solution in Donald Trump's America, just like there were no solutions except the final solution in Hitler's Germany. I'll talk to you all later.